Thank you to Jesse and Maya. I'm gonna have to get used to the whole being filmed like with a microphone and everything. Just to introduce myself, my name is Erik Shimizu. I'm with GoFarm Hawaii's Ag Business Program. I am one of the business consultants. My area of focus is more on the financial side. So my background is in accounting. That's what my degree is in. I'm the boring numbers guy that's going to come in and try to help you clean up some of the numbers for your business. I've been working with farms or agricultural businesses for the last 20 years, 20 plus years. So even though I'm the office guy that's sitting behind a cubicle, I think I've worked with enough farmers and I've been out in the field enough to have a good understanding of, of the industry. Alyssa can give you a brief introduction.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming out. Like Erik said, my name is Alyssa Lee, part of the Ag Business team. My primary focus is on marketing. I have a big background in like the restaurant industry, actually, hospitality. So I did that for over 10 years. And also went through the GoFarm program itself. So I did farm for a few years out on Oahu. And so all of my experience comes from, working in the industry, farming myself, having to also make product. I made cornmeal when I was farming. And so a lot of what I'm talking about today is going to be things that I experienced myself and then what we've seen with clients that we've worked with through the program. So yeah, thanks for being here.
So it's nice to meet everybody. Normally we go around and ask you all about yourselves. Just so I can get an idea, how many of you are already operating a business? If you can just give me a raise of hands, just, okay. And for the rest of you, you're thinking about starting a food-related business. Okay. Jesse and Maya asked us to talk today. It's early in your program, so we're going to talk today about business plans and also how to do some market research. Business plan specifically because this is the good time to start getting that down on paper and what you want your business to look like. So I'm going to go through that, talk a little bit about what a business plan is and what's kind of incorporated in one. Before we start, I want to thank our sponsors, and I'm sure the Food Hub does this also. We couldn't do what we do without assistance from the federal, state, private entities that provide us with funding and also places for our farm training sites. So we want to be sure we thank them before we start every workshop. A very brief description of what we are. GoFarm has kind of two arms to it. One is the consulting side, which is what we do and what we're doing today. The other side is a beginning farmer training program. So in that side of our program, we teach like it's a 9-month course, I think, altogether. You're meeting twice a week with a farm coach. You're learning about different ways to start as a farmer. We get a lot of participants who might not have much experience in farming, and we got to teach them from the ground up. Like, how do you test your soil? How do you test your water? How do you transplant from the nursery to the field? It's a very hands-on course that covers about 8 months total for the formal part of our program. We've got 5 training sites on 4 islands. So there's one on the Big Island. It's Hilo side in Hawaii. We've got 2 on Oahu, 1 on Kauai, and 1 on Maui. So it's an actual farm site. We have an actual farm coach who will walk you through and teach you how to become a starting producer. If any of you have a question about production, or let's say you've got something going on and you reach out to me, I'm probably going to reach out to one of our farm coaches just to give you an idea. They've got the production knowledge. I don't want to step on their toes. They know way more than I do. If it's a numbers related thing, that's probably where I'll come in. And that's the business team. So we've got 5 members on the business team. I think I've got 4 listed there. All of us have kind of a different area of expertise. If you have a marketing related question, I'm probably going to ask you to talk to Alyssa or have her set up a meeting with you. If it's numbers related, like I said, or business plan development related, I'll probably work with you. Kyle is another of our consultants who has a little bit more. In addition to the business side, he's got some production experience. So Kyle worked at Dole for a long time. So they're a large landowner. He's got experience setting up irrigation for a larger farm or setting up some infrastructure if you have those kind of issues. So when you reach out to us, we'll try to find the consultant that makes the most sense to work with you. I've got our email addresses up there. I'm going to share all our slides with Maya and Jesse, so don't feel like you got to write everything down. I know it's hard to see also a little bit because of the glare. All of the slides are going to be shared, so you don't have to worry about taking notes today. Today is more just, I want you to start getting this information to start sinking in a little bit. And that's where we're going to start, is talking about business plans. Have any of you done or created a business plan already? Okay. So for those of you with experience, some of this might be old news. Hopefully I can share some tips. I review a lot of business plans, or I get asked to look at business plans. I sit on some grant eval committees where we're looking at the business plans. hopefully I can share tips for those of you that have already done one. For those of you that haven't done one, maybe we can provide some information on what's included, right? So what is a business plan? It's basically the description of your business idea or what you're going to be doing. It's your goals, it's your mission, it's the story about yourself, right? You're trying to capture in a document what this business idea is, why you got into it, and why you think it's going to be successful. It's a dynamic document, and by that I say it's a living document. So if you did a business plan last year and you need one this year, you got to go back and you got to review it and make sure everything is still correct. I've been in cases where somebody submitted their business plan to me and I knew it's old. The information is different now. It's not useful for you unless you keep it up to date. So make sure you revise it or you update it whenever you need it. When are you going to need one? Business plans are going to be needed either externally or internally, clearly, right? Most likely you're going to be asked to do a business plan when you're going out for a loan, or if you're applying for a grant, or if you're looking for a land lease. In those cases, the landowner, the funder, the provider is going to ask you for a business plan because it helps them get an idea of whether you're going to be successful or not, whether you're going to be able to pay off that loan, whether you're going to be able to pay that lease rent every month. Internally, for those of you that are thinking about a business plan might be a good way for you to start vetting your idea and running it by people to get their opinions, right? I know a lot of entrepreneurs and people who want to start up businesses have a lot of that information in their head. You got to get that down on paper. When people come to me for help developing a business plan, the first thing I need to do is get them to do that brain dump. Just throw everything down on paper. Let's get it documented. Let's start working with what we got and seeing what kind of areas you might be lacking in, and then we can develop that business plan together. I wanted to start off talking about some tools that can help you do that brain dump. So a lot of you might have seen these things before. If not, we'll kind of talk about them a little bit. The business model canvas is relatively recent. When I say recent, I mean like the last 10, 20 years, right? We'll talk about what that is. A SWOT analysis, I'm sure if you haven't heard it, it sounds familiar. That's the strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats kind of diagnosis for yourself. It's another way you can start getting that information down on paper. The last thing I have on here is Ag Plan, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, but it's a program developed by the University of Minnesota to help you write a business plan. So all the stuff we're talking about getting down on paper, that can help you format it into an actual business plan. It's a free, we'll talk about it a little bit more later. It's a free service developed by the University of Minnesota, but I've gone through and used it. It's pretty robust and it's pretty useful in terms of providing you with some examples of what a business plan looks like and what kind of components should go into it. So the first step, get that information out of your head onto paper, right? And a tool that people are starting to use a lot is the business model canvas. It was developed in the early 2000s. I think at that time, people were thinking, that business plan document with all of the text and all the narrative is kind of hard for people to digest. So they created this business model canvas, which is more of a visual tool that you can sit down and kind of just start filling out. It's got like different components on the business model canvas. I'll show you an actual example of one next. But there are supposedly 9 building blocks for a business, right? You have your customers, you've got your value proposition or your product, what are you solving in terms of what problem are you solving or what service are you providing? The different channels, how are you going to reach your customer, who your customers are and how you're going to relate to them? What resources do you have as a business? And what activities are you going to perform that are going to drive your business? And then I think those last 2 bullet points are, do you have any partnerships and what are your costs? So again, don't worry about writing all of this down. It was meant to be a visual kind of map. So if you'll notice on this map, all the 9 components I talked to are all kind of placed on this visual map. It's kind of like a flow chart. The left side, like reading left to right, the left side is a lot of the internal operational stuff that you need to consider as a business. So you'll notice things like who are your partners? What activities are you going to be performing? What resources do you have in place? Those are all within your business, right? The right side of the business model canvas is more outward facing. So who are your customers? How are you going to reach them and interact with them? How are you going to develop, or how are you going to generate revenue, right? And then the kind of the bridge is the value proposition, which is the service you're providing or the product you're providing that bridges the gap between what your company is and who you're going to sell to. So again, it's very visual. It's meant for you to just not be nice and pretty, just dump it on paper. I think this example is for a sushi restaurant, right? When you go through the slides, you can see a little bit about what they're including in each of those sections. Think about how that relates for your own business, because I know there's going to be a lot of different business options. I hope I'm not talking too fast. I tend to do that. Next slide is just another example. So it's a food business model, same thing, business model canvas. It's meant for you to get the information down on paper so that you can start working with somebody to develop the kind of the narrative, right? It's easier to digest than giving somebody a blank template for a document and saying, fill this out. In 2010, they came up with another template of the business model canvas. This one is called a lean business model. It's more for startups. So you'll see that a little bit of the difference is if you're starting up a business, you don't necessarily have partners in place or resources to work with. So the internal side is more, hey, what problems are you gonna try to address, and what kind of alternatives are there for you to solve that, right? It's the same concept going from left to right. The internal stuff is on the left, the external stuff is on the right. The bridge is gonna be your product or your service. I would highly recommend you start building a business model canvas for yourself, for your business idea. When somebody comes to me and they want to do a business plan, this is where we start, right? It might be a 1-hour meeting and I'm asking these questions, like who are you selling to? How are you going to reach them? What makes your product unique? What service are you providing, right? That others aren't. Like why are people going to buy from you? So that's the business model canvas. I know I went through it fast, but it's just a visual kind of map for what's included in the actual business plan itself, without the narrative fluffy part. It's just the bullet points. Another thing that's useful for people to go through is a SWOT analysis. I'm not a big fan of the SWOT analysis, but I know Jesse asked me to talk about it, so I'm gonna. A SWOT is an analysis of your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, right? Strengths and weaknesses are internally, what are my strengths for this business? What do I bring to it? Where do I need assistance? What areas am I going to need to reach out for people to help me with? The opportunities and threats are external, right? What opportunities or trends are out there that I'm going to capitalize on? Why are people going to buy my stuff? Like what's going to prompt, what am I solving in terms of a problem that exists out there? And threats are just your competitors and external factors that might impact you. If you're a farm, one of your threats is weather. You can't control it, pests, competitive farmers that might be growing the same thing. There's no correct answer for doing this. It's more, the SWOT analysis is kind of like where the lean business model was a picture of what your business is going to look like, what you're going to do. The SWOT analysis is kind of like an internal reflection. Like be honest with yourself. What are your strengths? What are the weaknesses? And the threats and opportunities kind of show that you're doing a little bit of thought in terms of what's the environment going to look like when I get out there. So those are just two. Business model canvas, SWOT analysis are just two ways to start doing that brain dump of information and getting what's in your head out on paper, right? Ag plan, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because the link is there. It's free to sign up. I don't get any money from them. University of Minnesota created it. It's a really cool template. So you go into Ag Plan, you set up an account, you say, I want to write a business plan for a food business, and it'll give you the option of all these different areas, like the executive summary, areas that I'm going to talk about a little bit later. It'll give you different sections, and you just fill it out to the best of your ability. They'll have examples in each of those sections, so you can see what they mean when they're asking you to fill something out. And at the end, you can click Create a Business Plan, and it'll format it all and print it out for you in a nice document, right? Again, it's free, so it's worth, even if you're not planning to use it, it's worth signing up just so you can see the examples that they have in it. So when you want to create a business plan, they'll ask you, is this for a farm? Is this for a food business? Is this for a combination? And then they have a template that can kind of work with you to create that business plan. And I would totally, if you need a business plan, You should be the author and the creator of it. Start working on it yourself. Even if you need to bring somebody in to help, it's your document and you're gonna have to answer questions about it. So make sure that you're proactive in creating it. And this is a good way to start it, right? Even if it's another brain dump, but this is a little more formatted to what a business plan is actually gonna look like. So that's the preamble to what I'm gonna talk about. I wanted to focus on what a business plan is and what it looks like and what the components are for a business plan. You keep me up on my time, right? You can Google how to write a business plan and you'll find hundreds of thousands of Google sites where you can, internet sites where you can look it up. If you go to Amazon and you type in write a business plan, I think last time I checked, there's like over 50,000 books on how to write a business plan. Please don't buy anything or pay for anything to write a business plan. There's enough free resources out there, or I'm a free resource. Like I'd rather you ask me for help writing a business plan than pay somebody to use their online website. Right? Like, it's not necessary. All of these websites, all of these books, it's gonna come down to 5 major categories, and that's what I listed here. There's always gonna be an executive summary. Every business plan starts with an exec summary, right? There'll be a section on the company. What does the company look like? How's it structured? What's the mission and the vision? There'll be a section about your operations. Like, what am I going to be selling or growing? Who am I going to sell to? What's my production plan look like? How much am I going to produce? There'll be a fourth section on marketing. Alyssa's going to talk to you a little bit more about market research, so I don't want to spend too much time on that. And the last section is financials. And when somebody comes to me with help, they need help for a business plan, that section is always not done. Like, I know that's the hardest section, right? Financials always gives people the most problems. They don't know where to get that information. Maybe they're not familiar with financials, they're not financial people. That's the area where I see most people need assistance with. So the next class that I'm doing is gonna focus a little bit more on financials, the one on the 22nd. Today I'm just gonna talk about like what's included in that section. So, executive summary, section number 1, right? And again, if you look at all those books or all those templates, they're all gonna have different categories, but they're all gonna fall into one of those 5 that I talked about. Executive summary should be the first. The very first thing that should be in your business plan is a short, concise summary of the business plan itself, right? The biggest error I see when people create a business plan is their executive summary is not a summary at all. It's like 2.5 pages of stuff that I gotta wade through. Right? That's not the purpose of the summary. The summary is to give the reader, it's like the trailer for a movie, right? You don't want to give away the whole movie, but you want them to be interested in reading further. Right? Nothing will if there's an evaluator looking at 25 business plans, the first thing they're going to do is kind of read the exec summary. And if yours is 2.5 pages long, they're going to put you to the bottom of the list and, hey, maybe if I got time, I'll read this one. Keep it to like a half page, 3/4 of a page, 1 page. Entice them to get more information from it. Give them the important stuff, like who you are, what you're selling, and what you're asking them for. Leave the detail for later, right? I had a professor at the university, at the College of Agriculture, wanted to do a business plan with me. And he gave me his plan draft, and his exec summary was, academics, right? So he had all this research information, scientific names. That's not what I'm looking for in the exec summary. So the first thing we have to do is chop that stuff up, right? Put the detail in the body of the plan. Executive summary should be a summary. Next section, so the executive summary, that should be easy. You should do it last, right? Because at the end, you'll know all of the bullet points to put in it. Second section is kind of just the bones of your business. What structure are you using? Why are you doing this plan? What's the vision for you, and what's the mission statement that you have for the business? Kind of I say bones, maybe that's not a good analogy, but it's the meat and potatoes. What are you doing, right? Who's in charge? Who's leading these different areas? What kind of employees do you have? Or who's in charge of marketing? Who's in charge of sales and customer development? In most cases, it's going to be you. This is a good place to put resources that you can turn to. Like if you have advisory consultants like GoFarm, right? If you come to us and work with us, I would recommend you put us in your business plan as a consultant that you can turn to for business advice, right? What that does is gives the reader, again, whoever that reader is, if it's a loan officer or a landowner, it gives them confidence that if you can't do all this work, you know where to go for help, right? Like, again, as an entrepreneur, you're gonna put your name after all of these areas, right? Are we all experts in all these areas? Probably not. Like if you are, then awesome, I wanna meet you. But in most cases, you might be really great at sales, but you might not be great at the manufacturing. You might be really great at running a business, but you're not great at creating the product, right? So who do you have to turn to and list that in your business plan? That's the second. So that's kind of the meat, right? Why am I doing this? What does my business look like? What do I want to get from this operation? The third section, so we talked about executive summary first, company overview. Third is operational, and that's more of like the kind of the blood flowing through the body. That's a horrible analogy, but it's how, you know, how you're going to get your product to your customer, right? What does your actual product look like? Where are you going to manufacture this? Do you have commercial kitchen space available? Do you already have a commercial kitchen in your house? How are you going to fulfill orders? Like, are people going to buy from you online? Are you going to sell it at the market? Whatever. It's more of the, how's my farm going to operate, or my business going to operate? I keep saying farm, but we work with food businesses also. This is going to take a little more thought in terms of what is the flow of business going to look like, right? And again, you can be as detailed or as not detailed as you want. If you have a manufacturing plan, put that in. If you don't, you can just describe, I'm going to manufacture to order, I'm going to have X number of products, this is how I'm going to reach the customer, I'm going to be organically certified or food safety certified. List all of those things so that your reader can see what sets you apart from other people who might not have those things. So that's kind of the boring stuff, right? Exec summary, company overview, operational overview. The interesting stuff, and what Alyssa's going to talk to you about in a little bit, is marketing research, right? And I'm getting filmed, so I hope this doesn't come back to bite me. But all marketing research, I mean, I think it's going to be, what does the industry look like? Who are my competitors? And, you know, how am I going to distinguish myself from my competitors, right? So industry analysis. In the business plan, you want to talk about what industry you're getting into. What are the trends? And a good example is it's not a trend anymore because there's so many of them, but food trucks, right? Before, there were a lot of food trucks in Hawaii. We saw them on the West Coast, and we knew that they were going to eventually arrive. Now there's more food trucks than people, but that was a trend that you would want to recognize if you were going to start a food truck business or something that you're going to sell through a food truck. So look for those kind of trends if that's what you're going to capitalize on. I hope that makes sense. Just do your research, right? Is there enough room in the market, right? I'm going to revert back to farmers. We work with a lot of beginning farmers. They need to think about what they're going to grow. And a lot of them think, yeah, I'm going to grow lettuce because everybody needs lettuce. But the market's really saturated with people growing local lettuce. So it might be harder for them to approach that than if they grow something that less people are doing or providing, right? Make sure that there's space in the market for what you want to grow or sell. I know that we all have great ideas, but make sure you can sell it and make money off of it. I'm the money jerk in our organization, where people want to grow food for the community and they want to make people healthy. And I'm the guy that says, are you going to make money selling that? Like, why are you growing this? Because you like it? Or can you sell it to make money? I'm going to be the bottom line guy, because I don't want you to go out of business, right? Hey, if you want to grow some stuff because you like to eat it, great. Make sure the other stuff you're growing is making money to cover that, right? If you want to grow to provide food for the community at an affordable price, that's awesome. But if you're losing money, how long are you going to be able to do that, right? So I want you to be able to do that for as long as you can. And for that to happen, you got to be able to sell your product. So make sure there's space in the marketplace for you to start your business. So that's the what does the industry look like? The next thing is kind of, who are you going to sell to? What does that market look like? You know, are you selling to the tourists that are coming in to Kona or Hilo, or are you selling to local local families. What is your primary buyer look like? I mean, we all want to sell everything to everybody. Well, I do because I'm the numbers jerk, right? Like, I want more, as many people to buy my stuff as possible. But you might have a target. Like, what does my premier customer look like? Is it going to be your typical mom, suburban? I know we have a lot of ladies. I mean nothing by this, but is it going to be a mother of children who's going to be buying food for her family? Is it a young millennial couple who's working in downtown Kona? Like, what does your customer look like? That's going to help you make a lot of decisions in terms of your marketing strategy, your branding design, your packaging. Those kind of things are going to be determined by who you're selling to. So put some thought into who your customer's going to be. I know we all want to say, I want to sell everything to everybody, but that's not the case, right? You have somebody that you're targeting to buy your stuff. What does that look like?
Eric's encroaching on my section now.
Am I? I'll go through it quickly. How do you find this information? Research. Please, don't be afraid to do research. There's so much AI available now to do research. I'm old, so I'm a slow, user of AI, but there's a lot of AI available to help you with your market research. Census data is great, but they don't do it every year. There's some data in Hawaii about how much food is brought in and how much is sold and how much is grown, et cetera. But they don't update that every year. And those surveys, I don't know how accurate they are because it relies on people to fill out those surveys, right? How many of us get a survey request in the mail and throw it to the bottom of the pile and never do it? So those surveys are a great place to start and give you maybe an idea of what it looks like in terms of what is grown in Hawaii, how much acreage is used. Just make sure you do a little research on your own also, right? Visit vendors that are selling the same thing you do to get an idea of their marketing strategies. Maybe you could take something away. But the more research you do on the industry analysis, the more credibility you have to the person reading it, right? They'll believe your numbers more if you're providing them with research that you've done to document what you've come up with. What does my time look like? All right. I'm at 40, so I got 5 minutes. Oh, okay. Competitive analysis. Who else is selling what you're selling, right? I know the ag community we're not competitors. We're all like working together. But come on. You're competing for the customer's dollar a little bit, right? Have a good idea of who else is doing what you're doing. Who else is selling what you're selling? Just for your own awareness, for your own knowledge. You want to know who else is out there, right? You don't want to go in there with blinders. Like I said, for some of our farm producers, make sure you know who else is growing and selling the stuff you want to grow and sell, right? A good example, if you're not, you could be in trouble. Like some people that I've worked with, they start recently. And again, if you're a lover of this fruit, please don't hate me. But some of our farmers, they wanted to start planting durian, right? Does everyone know what durian is? Yeah. For those of you who don't, it smells really bad or good. I don't know. But it's been on TV a lot. Famous chefs, they all say, hey, durian is great. It's so creamy and delicious. Young people that are starting or getting into farming or maybe beginning farmers might think durian is a great opportunity to capitalize on because people are going to buy it, right? But there's people that have planted, tens of hundreds of acres of durian already. Like they thought about it 5 years ago and they got a 5-year head start. And the people that I'm just talking to decide to plant it now, it's not gonna be a market for it, right? So make sure you have a good idea of who else is doing what you're doing, right? If there's somebody already capitalizing on 100% of the market for fruit juices in Kona, then how are you gonna bite into that market share, right?
Sorry, is there really hundreds of acres of dirt?
No, not hundreds, but I know there's tens of, like people that making 20 acres of durian. I don't know.
I actually know a lot of people doing durian.
And everybody asks, so there's always people planting durian every year. Yeah, are you gonna grow durian?
It's a little windy up here.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm jealous, but it's good to know that there's going to be a
Yeah.
durian.
what shocked me was the first time that came up, I asked that person why they wanted to grow durian. Maybe I'm going off track, but this is worth it. And they told me that they go to the Hilo Farmers Market and there's a guy that they always want to buy durian from, but he's always sold out. And I was like, does that guy bring 2 durian fruits to the market and 2 people like it and they buy it and that's why it's sold out? That guy didn't do his research. So he had to go back and figure out, like, was there more demand for it and that guy didn't have enough, or did the guy bring maybe 2 pieces and there's only 2 people in Hilo that like it, right? Again, the more research you do, the more it shows you have awareness of the industry. You're not going in it with blinders. And that's going to make the lender or the landowner more confident that you're going to be a success, right? They want to know that you're not just putting stuff down on paper, you know what's going on in the industry, and you know what's going on in terms of people doing the same thing, right? Branding. I'm going to skip branding because Alyssa's going to talk about branding. But super important. That's not why I'm skipping it. And then in the business plan, you should talk about how you're going to have that marketing strategy to reach your customers. All I want to say here is please be specific and include details. Don't write in your business plan, I'm going to use social media to reach my customer. Everybody says that. What does that mean? Are you going to post recipes weekly? Are you going to show pictures of your product at the farmer's market or at events, every day or every week? Like, how is that going to happen? Don't be generic. Your worst enemy when you're writing a business plan is being generic and just providing what people already know, right? Every business plan nowadays starts with, if it's related to food, starts with Hawai'i imports 90% of its, like, we all know that, right? You don't need to tell somebody else that. Don't waste space on it. I mean, if you want to, leave a couple sentences, but don't spend a paragraph talking about how Hawai'i is food insecure. Everybody knows that. So focus on the specifics of your operation and how you're going to address it. Okay, marketing sales plan. My last section is financials. Everybody hates them, right? I would say the most important part of the financial section of the business plan is a cash flow projection. That's going to show the money coming into your business, money going out, and how much money is going to be left over. I said the first place people turn to when they look at a business plan is the exec summary. I guarantee the second place is the numbers. Like, they're going to go through all that other stuff later. They're going to look at your exec summary to find out what it's about. They're going to go to the numbers to see, hey, can this person pay me back if I loan them money? Can this person pay for my, pay at least the rent every month based on what they want to do? And then they're going to go back and see if the numbers are supported by what's in the business plan itself, right? So the cash flow projection, I think, is generally the most important. That's why we're going to spend a class on the 22nd talking about cash flow projections and what they look like. But basically, it's the money coming in and going out of your farm or your operation. I keep saying farm, I apologize. Out of your food business. See, if you're doing a business plan for yourself, I would say, you're using a lot of projections, be conservative if you're using it internally. If you're doing a business plan externally, I'm not saying to not be truthful, but we all know a projection is a range, right? So when I talk to farmers, when they're doing research on crops, annual yield might range between 1,000 and 2,000, right? If you're doing the business plan internally, use the 1,000, right? If you're doing it because you want to get a loan, maybe you're closer to the 2,000. It's all within the range. But depending on the reader, use what part of that range makes the most sense, right? If it's internal, be conservative, just so you're not surprised by anything. Cash flow projections are usually, they'll tell you how many years they want to see it for. Typically, I see people ask for like 3 to 5 years of cash flow projections. So what that means is, for the next 5 years, what is it going to look like in terms of money coming in and going out of your business, right? And we'll talk about that in the class on the 22nd. That's my pitch to have you make sure you sign up for that one. Other financial information they might ask for is, let's see, am I behind? They might ask for a list of startup expenses if you're a startup business. How much is it going to take for you to get this up and running? maybe a production schedule if you need to show how much you're going to be able to manufacture or produce. If it's like a jams and jellies, how many bottles am I going to perform or produce each month, right? That's going to support your numbers in the cash flow projection. I don't have on here is cost of production. I don't necessarily see a lot of cost of production analysis and business plans, but if you've done that and you know how much it costs you to develop one jar of jam, you might want to include it. I would say throw it in an appendix, don't put it in the body. What people want in the financial section is going to differ based on what their requirements are, but they're all going to want to see a cash flow projection. I think if you had that, and maybe they might want to see when they say balance sheet, they're really talking about what assets and liabilities do you have. So if you have those three things, a cash flow projection, a list of your assets, and a list of your liabilities, they're probably going to be happy with that in your financial section. But again, they'll specifically tell you what you need to provide. And then for research, right? The more research you do on the financial stuff, the more confidence they have that your numbers are accurate and correct. Your numbers in your financial section are going to be supported by what you write in the plan. So make sure that they match. That's what I want to see. I didn't put here. Make sure the stuff in the financial section matches what you wrote in the business plan section, right? If you tell me you're going to sell your product at the farmer's market and I don't see farmer's market fees as an expense in the financial cash flow projection, I'm going to ask that question, right? If you tell me you're creating a value-added product and I don't see any expenses for jars and labeling and packaging, I'm going to think you forgot it or like you're not considering it, so that the projection is wrong. So make sure you do your due diligence in reading over your business plan yourself, right? And then the next couple of sections are just this cash flow projections, but I'm encroaching on Alyssa's time, so I don't want to take up. This is what I said. It's the money going in and going out of your business, right? And then this is the example. This is why it's the last thing people do, is because this is what it looks like. Who wants to do this, right? If you're a numbers nerd, I'm happy to work with you. But I know this is the last thing people do. My recommendation, if they don't specify what they want to see, I would say do maybe a monthly projection for 1 year, and then at the end you'll see I have 20 total, 2026 and 2027. Like I would do monthly for 1 year, and then I would do annuals for everything after that. If they don't specify, they might tell you, hey, I want 5 years of monthly cash flow projections, and then you're out of luck. You got to do it. But if they just say 3 years of financial projections, I would do 1 year monthly, and then every year after that, maybe it goes up by a percentage to make it easier on yourself. If you're willing to go through the effort of doing monthlies for 3 years, do it. But otherwise, I think if you go up by a percentage, I think you're okay. Finally, right? I said all of these things, but I'm going to just reiterate them. Be specific. Don't use generalities. Like they don't want to read, especially now with AI. Again, I'm a late adopter. But there's a lot of AI tools out there. You can dump all of your information in there and it'll spit out a business plan for you. But even though I'm a late adopter, I can read a business plan and you can tell that AI wrote it because there's a lot of general phrases and statements. So I'm not telling you not to use AI, but I'm telling you to go back through it and make sure that it reflects you and your voice and vision, because it's easy to see like a generically written business plan. And you don't want to be that. Think about who your audience is. Again, that goes to the whole, are you going to be conservative because the audience is you? Are you going to be super positive because the audience is somebody you want to get money or land from, right? Again, make sure you're still in the range of reasonableness, but think about if you're doing a business plan to get a loan and your cash flow projection shows you have no money every month to pay that loan off, what's the odds they're going to give you that money? I mean, it's low to none, right? You got to show that you're going to be able to pay that loan off. So think about who your audience is. If you're going for a loan, a lot of the fluffy, I'm doing this, all of you can think I'm the jerk. A lot of the fluffy, I'm doing this because I want to support, Hawaii becoming more self-sustainable, and I want to contribute to the food security. That's great. If you're going for a loan, a bank loan officer, do you think they just want to see what you're going to grow or produce, what you're going to sell, how much money you're going to make, and can you pay them back, right? So all that nice stuff, I love it, and I know where you're coming. I know where your hearts are. But some of those business people, they don't really care about that. So don't spend a lot of paper space on it, right? If you're going for a grant and their mission for that grant organization, that funding organization is food sustainability, then you spend all that time you want on it, right? Think about who's going to read it and make sure that it speaks to them. Make sure your financial metric written. Appendices are your friend. Again, if you have a lot of detailed information, throw it in an appendix. Don't put it in the body. Make the appendix available if they want to read it. Proofread it and have others read it. When I say have others read it and provide you comments, I don't mean have your family and friends read it and tell you what a great idea this is and how you're not going to fail. I mean, find an unbiased person to read it and give you their opinions, right? That's the best way you're going to get a better product. Let somebody pick it apart. If you want, I'll do it. I already told you I'm a jerk. I'll read it and say, are you going to make money or are you not going to make money? Why are you growing? I see why you're growing these 10. Why are you growing this one? Or why are you selling it to this? I'll be that guy. And then update it. That's all I have. What time is it? Okay. Again, I'm open for questions after today's sessions. If you want to reach out to me after this, you all can reach out to us, right? Our consulting services are free. As long as you're using Hawaii grown product in your Hawaii grown produce in your product, I can work with you. If you're buying all of your stuff from the mainland, then I'm supposed to help farms in Hawaii or businesses in Hawaii. So I got to take somebody else over you. But I'm sure all of you are using locally grown product or you're manufacturing everything here. So reach out, send me an email. And yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions. I need this.
We'll make sure Eric's email goes out to everybody when we send the slideshows after today.
Eric keeps saying he's a jerk, but he's actually the nicest one in our
I'm
entire
a nice
organization. So I don't know what he's talking
I'm a nice
about.
jerk. I'm the money person. That's why. I'm the money person.
Alright. Making. Oh, good to go? Okay. Well, Eric basically covered my whole section already. I'll just go a little bit more into detail, but so yeah, we'll talk about marketing stuff. I'm gonna run through things like what are some items in the market that are kind of saturated already? How can you differentiate yourself? Talk about some products that are currently trending. So as Eric mentioned, as you're doing your research, looking to see that there's enough space for your product that you're designing and that you're not like behind the curve already. I'm going to highlight a few products that I think are pretty innovative or just things that I think, are what customers are looking for. We'll also talk about different sales channels, kind of pricing considerations, as well as a little bit of branding talk and marketing considerations. I know that you have a marketing class, I believe, as another session. Just generally what I cover more, but I'll keep that one brief so you can enjoy your other class later. Okay, so saturated market items that we're seeing a lot. Typically, and not saying you shouldn't do these products, I think there's a lot of space in the market for them, but I also see that there's a lot of them. So there's a lot of pickles. Everybody likes to do pickles, particularly people who farm, because it's a great way to offset your B-grade produce, right? Any excess produce that you might not be able to sell. We see a lot of honey, jams, and a lot of hot sauces. So again, I'm not trying to deter you from creating these products. It's more, what about your product is going to separate you from the other competitors in the market? So some things that ideas that we've seen, right? And these are some things I've taken off the Food Hub, so maybe it's yours. So I took it off of FarmLink as well as the Kohala Food Hub, but like a honey trio packet. So having variety for people to try from your business. So different flavors. I even put here like a place-based one. So I know apiaries are hard to keep in different places, but if you can aggregate from other beekeepers and maybe make a pack of honey coming from different parts of the island, that's always interesting. I don't know if you guys know a lot about honey, but depending on where the bees collect the pollen, the flavor is different and is pretty neat actually to see how in one island it could taste completely different. Whole honeycomb is another really cool idea. You don't see a lot of people doing that. And then somebody actually made like a fermented honey garlic. So being able to use 2 different local products within their, one value added product, that's a really good thing because you can collaborate with a farmer and do your own thing. Make a very special product that could be maybe seasonal or, once every year. Thinking about things like hot sauce, something that could differentiate you. There's a company on Maui called High Spice that only does small batch items. So everything that they put in, except I believe the vinegar maybe that they use, is all locally sourced fruits or vegetables. And so though they do it small batch, they're really keeping to their mission, which is why a lot of people tend to, support them. They're buying local, supporting local farms, things like that. And it's a great way to market themselves as such too. These are some, oh wait, I'm missing a slide. What's going on? Sorry guys, I'm missing a slide and I don't know what's going on. So I'm gonna cut out of here real quick and see what's happening. There you go. Okay, got it. So product trends that we are seeing right now are things made with canoe crops or things like kalo, ulu, uala, olena, maya. So those are trending products. I'm not saying that you shouldn't make it, but just noting that these are things that we're seeing coming out a lot. And a lot of these products nowadays are really thinking about the consumer experience. So making their products convenient for the consumer to use, right? So canoe crops may not be approachable to everybody who's not used to it. So a lot of these makers are doing things like already prepped, frozen, ready to make, parboiled ulu or uala. I'm sure everybody knows about Ulu Co-op, right? And what they're doing. But other people are doing like poi pops. Generally, we're seeing them in bags or containers, but trying to make something like a go-gurt, right? Something that's easy for people to consume in the field or on the go as a snack. Even Mokuvai, not Mokuvai, Pico Provisions, which is doing like a little baby food packet. So when you're thinking about packaging and building your product, that's something I think is really important in your design as you build your business and can also help to differentiate your product, is thinking about the end experience for your buyer and your user, right? I also just put kalo croutons because that's kind of fun and I haven't seen that before. It's a really neat product that I was like, oh, I would love that, rather than purchasing things off island, they're making it out of something that we can get here. And that's something that we're seeing too, right? Is how do you substitute things that we buy often in grocery stores that are being shipped in that can be replaced with items that are here. So I'm gonna switch to this one. For example, like we buy a lot of crackers, right? Ulu and Kalo is making like a ulu cracker, which is really fun. This other company, Okono Kai, is making like limu and seaweed crackers and a furikake. So instead of buying furikake from, the mainland or Japan or wherever those products are coming from, they're actually making a local furikake out of limu, which is an invasive species as well. So kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone, right? Pet products is a huge market right now. I would say if anyone can get into pet foods, people are willing to spend more money on their pets than they are for themselves oftentimes. So I would highly suggest if you have a product that you can make as like maybe off-grade stuff or excess items, pet food's really great. I did want to point out Poli Poli. This is a brand from Maui. They're doing mamaki tea, which we have seen an influx of as well. So mamaki is a really big product right now. For me, what sets their brand apart is they're also mixing it with ulu, the leaves of the ulu. And the way that they're packaging it and branding it is that they have a hot tea packet and an iced tea packet. And it's not that the flavor or the product itself is actually different, like the leaves or the tea. It's how they're bagging it. So their hot tea is actually bagged as individual small like tea packets, right? Like you normally would just have a cup of tea. Whereas their iced tea product comes with 2 large packs, because when you think about making iced tea, you're generally making it for like a party, right? So instead of their user or their buyer having to go get like cheesecloth or like boil it in a strainer to steep it, they're making a packet that's user-friendly and easy for them, that's straight out of the package. So even something small and innovative like that, where you're not completely doing a totally different product, you're just making it more convenient for the user, is something to also consider when you're building your packaging and your branding. I put some flour down here because I think like that's another great product that's been coming out a lot. So we have like ulu flour, I've seen kalo flour. This person's doing kiave bean pod flour, which, you know, if you can think of like other plants or species that are being underutilized that we have a ton of on this island, that maybe you don't even have to grow and you can go source from around the island. That's another thing to consider, right? And then the last one is from Mahiai Made. They're a chocolate farm in Hilo, right by our farm site, actually, our training site. This one is a vegan coconut milk Hawaiian Ava chocolate. Sounded pretty fun. So a lot of their products too, when they make it, so they grow their chocolate, but they also try to source other products from small local farms, and they just come up with different flavors that really set them apart from people in the market, right? Yeah, the chocolate's really good. I would really recommend them. Who makes it? They are called Ai Pohaku, and it's out of Waianae on Oahu. You can buy them on FarmLink. I don't know if you can get stuff shipped here. I think they have a website you can buy it on. Yeah. Okay. So after, you know, thinking about what product, you also have to think about what sales channels you might want to sell through and like what the pricing will look like for that. Erik kind of touched on some of this. There's many different market channels you could sell through, right? So there's like wholesale, which would be, there's a middleman, someone's buying your product and then they're going to sell it to somebody else for you. Generally, when you're selling through wholesale, that's when you're getting the least amount of profit, right? Because somebody else is going to have to mark it up in order for them to make profit as well. Next would be like retail, or I guess the way we were describing it is like consignment in a way. So you are giving it to a middleman, however, they're just holding the product and then they're going to sell it for you, right? And then there's also like direct to consumer, which is like farmers markets, or you're building your own website where people can buy just like it says, direct from you. That's where you're gonna get the most profit because you're not having to pay anybody else to hold your items or to, you know, sell it for you. There are a lot of considerations when selling to these markets. If you sell to people like KTA or even Kohala Food Hub, oftentimes they have a team that can help you with marketing. So if that's an area in which you don't have resources for, or you're not comfortable doing those things, it is really nice to be able to sell through those channels because it's a piece of the business you don't have to manage, as well as logistics in getting the product to the people, right? All you have to do is drop it off at the sales spot or the hub or the store, one stop, one drop, that kind of thing. Whereas, you know, if you're thinking about direct to consumer, if you want to sell to a farmer's market, there's a lot of logistics that go into that. So one, you're already making your own product, right? So if you're manufacturing that as well, packaging all of it, labeling all of it, there's those labor costs. But then if you go to a farmer's market, you have to think about the boothing setup. So you have to think, you need a table, you need display items, you need a sign. You also are gonna have to go early to set up. You're gonna have to stay the whole day. That's time you're either not spending on your farm or spending manufacturing your products, right? And then you're also gonna have to break down. So it's a full day of work that is great if you wanna build rapport with your customer. So it just depends like where you're at and what your needs are for that point in your business, I guess. I would also say when you're looking at these two, you should consider what demographic of customer you're looking to sell to. So Erik touched on it a little bit, right? So will the people that you're selling to buy it? And how do you know this? So I guess you want to think about, what am I selling? Who do I want to buy this product, or who would buy this product? So for me, I'm thinking about like the poi pops. I'm thinking a lot of more like local folks, community folks, people, you know, that are active, people with children might buy this product. I'm not thinking like tourists in Waikoloa are gonna buy this product. So when you're thinking about price point, you have to consider those things too. So if I wanna sell my product at a higher price point, I might look at a different market. I might look at Waikoloa. What are the things that they would buy? They're gonna look for gifts, things that they can pack on the plane, things that they can give to, you know, their family when they go home. And so then you also have to think about packaging size, right? They can't take liquids on the plane unless it's under 3.8 ounces, 4 ounces, something like that. So if you are marketing towards a tourist demographic, you should really consider what sizing your products are going to be, especially because they're going to have to pack it in their luggage. And I'm sure they're bringing a bunch of other stuff too. But even when you're looking at the local consumer, if your product is you want to sell to just people who live here, those markets are different too, right? If you sell in Hilo versus sell to people in Ka'u, I imagine people are going to be buying different things and are going to also be willing to buy at different price points. So when you're building your product, you can either build it to fit the community that you want to sell to, or you have to find a community that's going to buy the product that you want to make. So it's one or the other. The other thing that will help you determine your pricing is going to be like doing a cost of production, as Erik said. So knowing how much went into a single jar of honey, right? So how much did that jar cost you? How long did it take you to harvest that honey? How long did it take you to fill the jars? How much did it cost you to buy the labels, put the labels on for everything, right? And that's like a minimal one. We're not even talking about products that have like 1,000 other ingredients that you have to source, or if you're a farmer, you're growing it yourself, all of that. Yeah, did I leave anything out of that? I feel like that's covered it. As Erik had mentioned too, when you're thinking about pricing and what people will buy these products for, we always recommend just going to that place and going out into those spaces and actually doing that research yourself. We can't tell you, right? Like my markets in Maui, which is where I live, is going to be very different than the markets here. And so I can be like, oh, like they sell this tea for $12 on Maui Hub, but that's going to be very different on the food hub here. So if you're planning to do farmers markets, okay, go to the farmers market you want to sell to. Does anyone have a similar product to yours? What is the price point they're selling it at? What's the size of the product that they're selling it at, right? Because that'll also help determine if it's comparable or not. If you're planning to sell it in a store, what is their end price that they're selling it at in the market? And then kind of work backwards. So usually it's like a 30% markup. So kind of work back, like estimate from there how much you would be able to sell it to the wholesaler, and is that going to cover the cost of your product? Good. Okay. I'm kind of speeding through this actually. So branding and design is something else that helps sell a product a lot. I put these packages not to say one is better than the other, just giving examples of how you can. I know it's not that great with the light and stuff, but hopefully when you get the presentation, you'll be able to see. So, you know, I'm not saying anything's better than the other. I'm just saying that there's different ways that you can package your item, and some people may gravitate towards one versus another. And again, that's going to be dependent on the community you're selling to and the spaces you're selling in, right? So if you're selling in a hotel, you're probably going to want some kind of like very like upscale, fancier looking products. They may not necessarily gravitate towards something that looks homemade or homegrown. But community-wise, when I think about, you know, when I buy stuff from community, I go to farmers markets, I love buying products that I can tell like this family made this, right? This is from their backyard, like they grew that. So again, not saying one packaging is better than the other, but considering where are you selling to and what are they going to gravitate towards more. I also just wanted to show off, like, this is Hawaiian Crunch. They make a uala granola and I think they make a kalo granola too, another one as well, but they like dehydrate it and then they put it with their granola mix. It's delicious if you can ever get your hands on it. They're a Maui company as well, but they rebranded their packaging, and I liked their original packaging. It has a view panel in it, which was really cool because you could see the actual product. You could see the dehydrated uwala in it. So you're like, oh yeah, that looks awesome. I want to try that. But then they upgraded to these other like fancier packaging, which is really beautiful, well designed, but doesn't have the view panel. So for me, I like the other one, but others might gravitate towards the center one, right? When you are thinking about branding, branding is your overall business. Marketing is your like short term trying to make sales, right? Whereas branding is like, who are you as a business? Who are you as a personality? So when you're thinking about developing your brand, you want it reflected in your packaging as well. Your packaging should be able to tell people like, who are you as a business? So it doesn't necessarily have to demonstrate like, what is your mission, but brand identity is important. So like when you're thinking about your brand overall, not talking about the packaging, think about, yeah, what is your mission? What is your goal? Who are you trying to sell to? What is your brand identity? So what are your values as a business? What are the things that are important to you? What makes your brand unique from someone else's? And how do you want someone to feel when they look at your brand? Do you want them to feel like they're in a hug and that they're loved because it's like a super warm type of branding? Do you want them to feel very like rugged because it's a nature-y sort of brand? I'm trying to like think of things, sorry, off the top of my head. And so when you're doing that, when you're building that, think of adjectives that can describe the personality of your brand, right? For us, our personality is supposed to be resourceful, educational, farmy, I don't know. Rustic is another one that we use often. And then also, what is your voice? So are you, as a company, as a brand, are you trying to are you environmentalists? Are you friendly and fun? Or are you like serious and, just trying to think of other types of voices that you can have out in the community. And then trying to bring that into a visual element. So what colors represent that to you? So when you're building your brand, think of colors that represent that personality of your brand, of your company. And then some imagery and symbols that could represent that. So like, I guess if I'm thinking about a farm, oftentimes people use a lot of earthy colors, right? So like browns and greens, that would be my branding choice. If I was building a farm brand, I would be like, yeah, I'm a rustic, down-to-earth voice, personality, with the colors of like brown and green. And then my imagery and symbols are gonna be things like a hoe or a spade or like a lettuce, something that's recognizable. And those are the things you're gonna stick with. So I would put those on my packaging, right? When I'm building a brand, I'm gonna put those images on my packaging so that it's recognizable. I'm gonna put those colors on my packaging so that somebody can see that from afar and be like, oh, I think I know that brand. I've seen that colorway before. I've seen that image before. Same as a logo. So yeah, when you're building that packaging, having the color palette and having a logo is also super important, right? I think you can build a lot of trust with people if they start to recognize your logo, and it should be easily identifiable, something that they can see from afar and recognize either by the symbol of it or the color of it. So for one, like Poli Poli in the center is one that I recognize pretty easily. Just the packaging, the design of the logo itself is just like, oh yeah, I know that logo, that like squiggly line thing, that's Poli Poli. Yeah, and then I kind of went through this stuff already. Any questions so far? One's all right? Good, okay. And then marketing, I'm just gonna touch briefly on this since you're already gonna have another marketing class opportunity. I'm just sharing like a little bit of a kit that we tell our students they should always have to be prepared to market themselves. So when you're thinking about selling your business, selling yourself, these are things that we always recommend, right? Obviously an email, someplace where someone can contact you, but we want you to do something professional. So like, a Gmail is great. If you know how to do computer stuff and make a domain name with your brand, that's really great. Not something from like high school where it's like thesenuts808@yahoo.com or something. Unless you're selling Mac nuts or nuts or something, right? Then it makes sense. But if it's something that has nothing to do with your business, having a professional email and someplace people can contact you, very important. Obviously a phone. So if you're gonna share your contact with anyone, give them the contact that you will actually answer. Farmers are really hard to get a hold of, so hopefully you as producers, like value-added producers, are not as hard to get a hold of. But that is something we see with our farmers. It's also useful. You can take pictures with it now, right? We always recommend having like 3 to 5 photos, so definitely a headshot of yourself. Some pictures of your products. Maybe if you are using local producers or local farmers, pardon me, pictures of the raw product itself. Even maybe partnership photos with those farmers would be really great too. And then again, a logo, you can get this many ways. So you can build it yourself. There's a tool online that's free called Canva, and you just sign up. There's a free thing that you can utilize. If you want more out of it, you can pay for it. Fiverr is a really great graphic design website where they have freelance graphic designers, and it doesn't cost that much. One of our students got a logo for 25 bucks. So super easy if you don't want to build it yourself. We also offer logo design if you would like. It's just going to be like a starter one though, like a basic one. So if you need that, we also offer that service. Social media is not a must, but it is useful sometimes if you want to start building a following, if you want to start building interest in your product, right? Instagram or Facebook. If you really want to be cool, TikTok, but that's like the young people thing nowadays. And then a website isn't necessary, but I encourage it. You don't necessarily have to use it for sales. You can use it just as a placeholder to tell your story. So the things I would recommend just having on a basic website, and I can tell you about some apps or platforms you can use, but would be to have your logo on it, your colors, the branding that you want, right? People to recognize you by. Would have an About Us section, so a little blurb about who are you, why did you start this business. I would also have your contact information, whatever it is you're gonna actually answer, and then where. So not just where are you located, but like where can people come to support you. So if you're selling your product at a farmer's market, what days of the week is that farmer's market? Where is it located? What's the address? Or if you're selling to Kohala Food Hub, add a link to the Kohala Food Hub so that people can go on there, and then add the days that the market is open for them to purchase on. Some platforms, if anyone is interested, Shopify or Squarespace is really good. I use that one a lot. That one's pretty user-friendly. Even Google has like a website platform that you can build super like basic stuff on. So that was also where I put your photos.
It's super easy. I mean, I could probably create a website. Like you should be able to if you really need one. Just I think the key is to don't make it easy to find you. Yeah.
Yeah, because when you think about when you're, looking for a business or someone's talking about a business and you're like, oh, what was that thing that they were talking about? Usually the first thing you do is Google them, right? And so if you're not in there on social media, if you're not there with a website, how is anybody supposed to find you, right? Some people are lucky, they get a lot of word of mouth, and so they get a lot of press, and sometimes people will write articles about them. That's great, but not everybody gets that. And so if you're not one of those people, how are people going to know about you? So not saying that you have to do social media, but if you are thinking about what are you actually using it for, who is your audience, right? If your product is geared towards a demographic of people who do not use social media, which is oftentimes farmers or mature folks, like my grandparents, Erik, people who don't use social media, how are they going to know about your product? Is social media actually the right platform for you, or is it to have an email sign-up list, to have a newsletter? Is it, to send your information to the Kohala Hub who's gonna market for you and have some place where all that information lies? social media can be a really good tool to start building a following, get interest, but something that we realized is, engagement on your social media doesn't always equal sales. You can use it for so many different purposes, and people will just like go through it and they like stories, and that's cool, but it doesn't necessarily mean people are going to buy your product. So I don't know, people always ask about social media, and I tell them you don't need to have it. How you're going to market depends on the community that you're selling to. So I feel like if you live in this area, Kohala is a pretty like word of mouth sort of community, right? And so I think a lot of the ways you're going to get sales is by building rapport with people who are purchasing your stuff. And how is that going to happen? It's from you going to farmers markets or starting a food stand and like going out or going to small businesses and talking to them and trying to get your product in there and having them give good word of mouth about you as a business owner and about your product too. Whereas, on Oahu, social media is a big influence, but that's because it's this big city where people are just like constantly on the go, and like the easiest way to find information is through social media. So again, it all depends on where you're at. How do those folks receive information? Is it like passing out a newsletter about your product and like recipes people can make with it in the restaurant down the street, or at your schools that are around here? So just considering those things. And that's it for me. Here's our contact information. Tried to keep that as brief as possible.
I think one thing that Alyssa brought up that is super important is that media kit, right? Because who knows when those opportunities are going to come by. Like when somebody wants to write a little article about you in the newsletter or whatever. And if you tell them, oh, okay, can I get you a photo of my product and myself next week? You're going to lose all those opportunities, right? That should be all stuff that you can easily, if anybody asks for it, or if you need to use it for a business plan, right? A lot of that stuff you're going to put in your business plan, a headshot of yourself or your shots of your product. If you can break up the text of a business plan with photos of your operations or your branding or your logo, it's going to make it much easier to read and digest than if I'm looking at a wall of text for 20 pages. Right? So all that branding and the visual stuff can be very useful for a business plan also.
Yeah. I would also say it's really useful if you're planning to sell to Kohala Food Hub, because they do market their producers, not just the farmers and growers, but any products that you're actually making. And like that's, again, a free and easy way to get marketing out there that you don't have to build or maintain or manage yourself, right? And I know a lot of food hubs, even like Hawai'i Farm to Car and Hilo and stuff, they have so many producers that they want bios on, but it's like pulling teeth to try to get photos from them or contact info. And so if you already have that on hand, like again, easy, free way to market yourself right away, right? Something you don't have to manage. So, to his point.
I think that's it. So open it for questions.
Yep.
I mean, if we were perfect, then you have no question.
I know. I was like, wow.
We have a large property that we're developing based on agroforestry and intercropping principles. And what that means is that we have quite a few diverse products that don't necessarily make sense together in terms of making something with both the ingredients or in terms of building a brand that incorporates the two different things. So when you're looking at creating a business plan for something like that, do you need to create a separate business for each of the different products? Can you create one like that incorporates it all, even though the things are quite different? Like, how can you talk to me about what you would recommend to do in that kind of situation? Does that make sense?
Can you give some examples of what you're growing that you're saying don't match together?
Yeah. Well, I would say we have 3 different projects that we're considering. One is already installed, and it's a lot of tropical fruits and avocado. Another is moringa and tulsi with potentially honey. And that would be like a 3rd project. And then the 4th would be ulu and banana, mamaki. And then there's also some other herbs that help to prevent pest and that kind of thing. So those are the 3 things that we're looking at. I get overwhelmed when I think about how do I put all of that together, or do I do things separate?
I would look at it like in silos, like in like silos or columns. I would look at it by like the three different projects you're talking about, right? The business plan should incorporate all of it. Again, it's going to depend on what you're using the business plan for. If it's for like if they can operate separately and individually, maybe you would do 3. But I would say it's all falling under the umbrella of your operations, your farm operations. So I would include all 3. But maybe you go into more detail for the ones that are more applicable for whatever you're doing the business plan for. If you're doing it internally for yourself, I would just look at it as 3. To not get overwhelmed, I would look at it as 3 different things.
And what about for like branding, creating a website or marketing and creating a voice when they're kind of different? Potentially have very different markets for each one of those things.
I mean, I would suggest having one overall brand logo for your whole farm. And then you can create packaging so that it looks different for each of them. Like each product can have a different personality, but maintain the logo and like some similarities in terms of maybe imagery that's being used, but you can change like the colorway perhaps, or even still maybe the opposite. You change the imagery, but keep the colorway the same so that, you know, like this package has ulu on it, but it's this, and all of them are brown, but this one has a picture of ulu, this one has a picture of your bee, this one has a picture of, the other crop that you had mentioned. And so that it's still under one roof, it still looks cohesive in a way, but you can tell that they're completely separate in different products.
Yeah. Okay, and when thinking about marketing to different populations, just finding a way to do that. And then, like, would you think about making a mini business plan for each one of those that falls underneath the overarching, or
For each one of those markets that you're trying to sell to?
Yeah, because there's potentially different people that would buy.
I wouldn't make a different business plan, but you're going to have definitely a different marketing strategy. Yeah, because there's going to be different ways to reach them, right? Like, yeah, I wouldn't do a business plan, a mini business plan for each, but I would do a marketing strategy. What's my marketing strategy? And the amount of detail you want to go into is it's up to you, right? Like you might want to say, I'm going to identify these I'm going to reach some through the public radio, because I know that community listens to a lot of public radio or whatever, right? It's going to be different for those 3 specific target markets.
Feel free to reach out. I feel like we could have like a whole conversation on this and like how to approach different markets and what would actually make sense. But
definitely break it into digestible pieces. Like if you just look at everything from the back, as a whole, it's going to be hard, right? So I would break it up into digestible chunks. Like I'm going to look at this project first, and I'm going to think about this project next. The branding and the logo development is going to be kind of
slightly different for each thing, and take one piece at a time. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh. Now you know how we feel.
I'm curious about the farm mentorship and Hilo side that you mentioned. Is there any kind of minimum size as far as acres to be able to partake of that?
So you actually farm on our training site. So you would have to do it at our training location in Hilo, and you farm on a 1/16 of an acre at the site there. And what we're primarily training folks to do is to farm on small acreage. So anything like even 5 acres and less even. So that's what our focus is like intensified, diversified cropping and planting.
So there's no minimum, like if you have 3 acres, you're fine, you're good.
Oh, you got more than most people. Yeah.
Are you asking like the mentorship thing, meaning
like if your farm's not big enough, they don't want to take you, like if they had a minimum size operation?
No.
Oh, no. We take anybody, even if they don't own property.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Please come. We'd love to have you.
What about packaging? Can you talk a little bit about that? Where to go? The appropriate type of packaging and.
Appropriate size packaging is going to depend on your product for sure. And in terms of where to get it, everything has to primarily get shipped in from the mainland. You would generally work with a company, I think, depending if you're going to do like a fancy design. So like like the apple bananas one right here, like the whole package, how it's like got a design over the whole thing, that's generally going to be ordered from somewhere where they're going to have to print it and then ship it to you. Whereas like, you know, the brown one, I get it from Uline. That's the one I buy it from. Just noting that the shipping is very expensive. It's generally more than the actual packaging itself. And then I just used to like buy labels on what we call Sticker Mule. It's an online site, and then I would label my own products. So I never made it to the point of like professional packaging. I can see and check if I have any more information on that from our other colleagues, but I don't have it off the top of my head. And
containers, you know, like how people have like the pickle containers and cookies.
For value-added products,
Amazon.
Hawaii, we're really at a disadvantage
Yeah.
for value-added products, because packaging. I mean, think about it. If you're creating something at home, you're buying your bottles or your jars from like Target or Home. Like you're paying retail prices, and you're not even getting the advantage of like bulk purchasing. It's really hard.
Jess, you might actually have the answer to this one. I don't know if you guys have a bulk purchasing for packaging on island, but it's different everywhere. Like Maui has like one place, but it's very limited packaging. So I don't know if you folks have.
Yeah, the better question for Maya, but it's definitely the thing. A possibility, and that's a great point to bring up, is, you know, the Food Hub is a good resource for some of these kind of startup systems that you might not have access to as an individual, but the Food Hub might have, you know, bulk accounts or wholesale accounts, things like that. So it's definitely, I would inquire with Maya about it, as far, you know, whether it's packaging or even like a product that might go, like an ingredient in a product you're making, whether it's something we could source or we have a connection with another local farmer, producer. There's a lot of, I think, networking opportunity through the Food Hub with that as well.
Yeah. I would say like a lot of the people that I've worked with just buy it on Amazon. Whatever the cheapest option is, they buy it on Amazon, Uline, and then work with food hubs who are already purchasing some things in bulk, or, you know, like commercial kitchen spaces that are already purchasing things in bulk. Yep, and then just put your label on it.
Yep.
So just know like the sizing, because you always have to put the size of whatever it is on your package label. But yeah. She had a question. Sorry, I was like, yeah, trying to get her the mic.
So right now I'm kind of in the thick of launching a new eco tour and on our farm. So I have a blanket, a logo, and then I've always done it this way too. I have like a huge umbrella like that, and then there's little baby umbrellas that come out underneath it, so you don't have to consistently be doing logos. So I guess my main question is, isn't the telephone number an antiquated thing nowadays? I mean, even Wix.com or, I mean, all these companies, you can't get a hold of anybody. And I don't know if I want to hire someone to deal with the telephone questions, and I definitely do not want to be on the phone. I'm already on the phone too much. So, like, in terms of, like, I see you saying professional email and all that, but, like, do you really think that a phone number is a important thing, especially for a eco-tour where we're talking, like, you know, the times and dates?
I think it's up to you. It's your business, right? Like how much time you're willing to spend on talking to people over the phone, unless you're planning to hire someone to take over that. You can also get like a second line or a business line. I think Google has like a business line you can add to your phone where like you have limited hours. It's like where you don't have to answer it. No, I don't think phone numbers are important. However, I have, as a consumer, as a person who's like gone to things, wanted a phone number because it's sometimes easier. And it's, unless you're answering your emails, you know, and like on top of that, it is very frustrating as a consumer, as a person trying to reach you, to have to wait. So I think it's up to you how you want to do. Yeah.
I got fished on Wix. Couldn't find a support team, had to go through AI, bounced it back a bazillion times, the same question.
Goodness.
It's so annoying.
Yeah.
And I paid a lot of money for them to host the new
Yeah.
site. So, all right, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you.
I would just add to that, I think from a consumer standpoint, sometimes even just having a phone number for your business is like a brand, like a validation or legitimacy, because I think a lot of times you see a business without a number and you're like, oh, is this
Sketchy.
real? Is this sketchy?
Can I
Yeah,
talk to this
so
person?
It
Fake
may not
business.
be a resource that people even use, but
Here,
Well,
call
it's because they're
Facebook.
gonna get a lot of hate. That's why. No. Yeah. Yeah.
I had one. And I think either of you could answer this, but Alyssa, you talked a lot about in the market research piece of like, well, first off, like making sure you have the right product and you're selling it to the right people. And you talked a lot about kind of like, I'd call it field research, like going to local farmers markets, maybe going into local health food stores or supermarkets and just kind of assessing what the competitive landscape looks like. Are there other I guess digital tools or resources, or maybe even like local big business organizations, like small business organizations you know about, that for the folks that are just starting out to like get an idea of like, is there a product out there that's like mine, other than just, physically going out? Because it could be that they're trying to sell to, the state of Hawaii, or eventually they're trying to, ship product to the U.S. So
Honestly, all the food hubs in Hawaii are a really good resource. So, I mean, when I was looking at products, when I was trying to think about like how to build this presentation, I researched Kohala Food Hub, I looked on Maui Hub, I looked on FarmLink. I would say FarmLink is a really good resource. They purchase things statewide, so that's also a good outlet for you potentially. But, they're aggregating from so many places, separate islands, that you can see a range of products that people are making all over the state. So FarmLink is a big one, and they're pretty fair in their pricing. Like they don't mark things up a ton. So I would say like their pricing is also pretty on point for what you can imagine your product's going to be priced at. Who else would be good?
I mean, just Google research. I mean, there's so many, not so many. Don't be afraid to use Google and try to find competitors and see what they're selling on their websites. Like a lot of people are selling it directly from their own website, and you can see what their pricing is because they want people to buy it from them, right? I'm shocked at how many people don't go on and see who else is selling honey to high end. Like and I'm an old guy, so getting me to talk about how great technology is probably, pulling teeth. But AI. Right? You could type in AI and say, what are kind of comparable prices for jars of honey in the state of Hawaii? And it'll pull out a lot of useful information. And they'll even have links to where they got that information from. But I definitely think a good starting point are things like FarmLink and any other food hubs. They've got stuff on their website.
Yeah, I don't know how much information they have on the people who have gone through their program, but there's a large food commercial space on Oahu called the Wahiawa Value Added Product Development Center, and they have a program in conjunction with LCC where it's called Aina Te Mekeke, where they have people come through their program similar to ours, where they help them develop a product. So versus farming, it's like a cohort of people who are developing products, and they have a lot of people who do really innovative things. I would actually maybe see if you can go on their website, see what people, you can look up Aina Te Mekeke or Wahiawa Value Added Development Center. Wahiawa Value Added Product Development. It's a long name, center. Yeah, sorry.
Alyssa, do you know there's also a similar model, I think of that on Maui, that the community college?
Yeah, they just started. So the Maui Food Innovation Center is kind of starting their program. I haven't seen a lot out of them yet, but I think they just kind of opened last year. That's why.
I heard the space is pretty epic.
It's pretty nice. I don't know. The one in Wahiawa is like gigantic and like insane. Have you been to that one? Oh, you should go check it out. It's like this huge warehouse of just like insane, fancy, shiny tools that have never been used. So yeah, very interesting what can be made there.
For folks that might be interested in, because we're doing a similar kind of incubator model here with our kitchen, if people wanted to kind of go, it sounds like that's the next level up on Oahu. Is that like an open enrollment program, do you know, or?
I think they have like 2 cohorts a year almost. I do believe they take people from different islands, and then you have like some classes you might have to make in person. You definitely have to go to the Hō'ike, which is their final, like, they have a market basically. So you make your product and then you actually give out samples at the end to guests and stuff. So it's a great program if you're interested in like really scaling up. They do also take people who just have an idea and want to, utilize their equipment to make a product. You don't have to have something that you already have already tried, but I always recommend trying your product first. Like, try to make something and then have people sample it and taste it and give you feedback. So friends, family, community members, and asking them too. Like, that's the best feedback you're gonna get. Like, sample from your family. Was it too sweet? Was it too sour? Did I give too much in this packaging? Could I give more? Just like simple things like that.
As long as they're honest. If my mom gave me something to try, I'm not going to tell her it's horrible.
Yeah.
You're always looking for unbiased, evaluations of anything.
Yeah.
Just to go over that list once more so people have it. So FarmLink is the big food hub on Oahu. I think they service the entire island of Oahu. Maui's is called
Maui Hub.
Maui Hub.
Yeah.
I believe all of these food hubs have social media accounts too. It's probably the easiest way to find them. And then, of course, on Big Island we have Kohala Food Hub here. There's Adaptations in Kona. And then there's the Hilo, I believe it's called Farm to Car.
Yeah.
Kohala Farms is I think it's part
And I know
of
they're not like food hubs, well, sort of, but they also aggregate a lot of local products. Is the Locavore in Hilo is a great store with Katarina, and Onomea Hub are they in Honomu or Honoka'ish area?
Yeah, near Onomea Bay, I guess.
Yeah. They're really great too.
And then, of course, everyone knows the health food store in Kona that I'm blanking on the name of.
Yeah, there's also
Island Naturals, I guess.
the Hawaii Food Hub Hāwī, which you can look up, which will list all the food hubs that are in Hawaii if you want to research from more places. Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions, comments?
Okay.
Nope, thank you all.
Yeah,
Awesome.
thanks everybody
Let's
for
give it
your
up
questions.
for Alyssa and
Appreciate
Erik.
it.
Thank you guys.